Call the meeting to order. Monday, the 1st of May, 2006, right at 7:07 p.m. The invocation this evening was provided by the Father James McCranor of the Sacred Heart Catholic Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, the Police Explorers, and Vice Mayor Losner. Would you all please stand?
Merciful God, you rule over all creation. We invite you to come to us, stay with us, and enlighten us. Give us light and strength to know your will so that our lives may be in accord with your wishes. Bless the members of this council. Guide them by your wisdom. Support them by your power. May they lead this city so that the rights of all may be upheld. Give them wise counsel. Unite all of us to yourself in the bond of love and keep us faithful to all that is true, so that our problems and decisions become challenges and opportunities for good. Almighty God, bless the people of Homestead and watch over those in public office so that the American dream becomes available to all who are willing to sacrifice, and that people everywhere may enjoy religious freedom, security, and peace. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Please join with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Holy honor. I take holy honor.
Thank you all. You may be seated. Thank you, Father McCranor, for coming out this evening. And thank you, Vice Mayor, for the pledge. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Warren.
Here.
Vice Mayor Losner.
Here.
Councilwoman Bell. Here. Councilwoman Garner. Here. Councilman Hodge.
Here.
Councilman Porter.
Here.
Councilwoman Walden. Here.
Item 4 is additions, deletions, or deferrals. None, Mayor. 5 on the special presentations. 5A is the comprehensive annual financial report presentation by Racklin, Corns, and Holtz. Councilwoman Bell and Mr. Michael Futterman is here to make the presentation from Racklin and Corn.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. For the record, my name is Michael Futterman. I am an audit partner with the firm of Rackman, Cohen & Holt, and I have Jan Smith, who is the audit senior on the audit of the City of Homestead's engagement. I'm here in place of Jerry Chioka, who is the audit partner, who's been ill and been in the hospital, and he asked me to do the presentation on his behalf. I'm here to present my brief presentation on the results of the audit for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2005. And I'm pleased to say that as a result of the audit, the financial condition, the city's in very good financial condition. I believe most of you have a copy of the CAFR with you now, and I wanted to go over just some of the highlights with you. One of the things that we're going to just briefly go over are some of the positive balances, which leads you to see that the good financial condition, and I'll refer to that in a few minutes. But if you look at page 1 and 2 of the comprehensive annual financial report is our auditor's report. It's one of the few pages in the document that belongs to us as the auditors. Just wanted to mention that the first paragraph of that report states what we audited. The second paragraph of that report states under what standards we performed our audit engagement, which is under generally accepted government auditing standards. And the third paragraph refers to our opinion, and it says, in our opinion, based on our audit and reports of other auditors, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information as of September 30, 2005. Essentially, that's known as an unqualified or a clean opinion, which is the highest level of opinion you can achieve. The next item I wanted to point out was starting on page 3, and it runs through page 3 to 15, and that's what's referred as the management's discussion and analysis, and it's probably the 12 most important pages in the entire comprehensive annual financial report because it summarizes all the activities and operations of the city. I'm not going to go through all the details of that, but if you have to read anything in that document, that's what you would like to read. The next I wanted to point out was on, I believe it's page 20, which this will follow or flow with the comment I made before about the financial condition. This is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for the governmental funds. And what that shows, you can see the revenues and expenditures. And if you see towards the bottom of that page, it's referred to as the net change in fund balances. And you can see for the general fund, the net change from last year to this year was $3,774,000, which is showing that's the excess of the revenues over the expenditures for the fiscal year. And you can see for the other funds also. So positive for all the governmental funds was $8.7 million increase in your fund balances, which again are also listed by fund on the bottom of that page. And the same corresponding information for the enterprise funds, like for the water and sewer and the electric utility, are on page 22. And that shows similar results. If you look in the water and sewer column, towards the bottom you see change in net assets, and it shows $6.4 million just for the water and sewer and $4.5 million increase in the electric utility. And again, it shows your net assets at the end of the year from last year and the change to this year. The other thing I wanted to point out for the city went to a pooled cash system this past year, and as a result of changing to the pooled cash system, the investment earnings increased by about 150% by able to pool the money and find better investment vehicles. And last but not least, I wanted to point out, if you look at pages 111 through 121, those are known as the auditor's reports or compliance section, and it includes the reporting that's required under government auditing standards. It includes the reporting that's required by the Auditor General of the state of Florida, and it also has the reporting for the federal and Florida single audit acts. And we're pleased to present that we had no findings to present to the city. In conclusion, I just wanted to thank Alina and her staff and all members of the city for their cooperation in the conduct of the audit. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be pleased to respond to them.
Any questions from council?
I just want to, you did mention there were no reportable conditions in this audit.
Correct.
One question.
I remember just last year sitting with Jerry and talking about going to a pool of cash systems to improve the return, and so I'm glad to see such a positive, such a positive return, 150% increase. That's pretty healthy.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much.
Just one comment.
Councilman Porter, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I just want to say, could you send our regards to Jerry? I hope he's feeling better. I hope it's not serious. So he's in the hospital?
Yes.
Send our regards, please.
I shall do that.
Thank you.
And just for the public consumption, I just want to read in the management letter number 3, that there is no recommendation to improve the city's present financial management, accounting procedures, internal controls for the current fiscal year. And I think that's indicative of just the superb effort by Elaine and her staff this past year in making sure there's no portable conditions, that no specific recommendations. You're going to say they're almost perfect, but I won't say that yet. But I want to thank the staff for just doing an incredible job, Elena, you and your team. Just keep up the good work. We appreciate what you're doing over there. You've come a long way. And thank you, sir. Any other questions? Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Item 5B is the proclamation presentation for the National Tourism Week. Councilwoman Wallman.
Sorry about that. It seems like it hasn't been a year, but it has. Time just flies by. So I would like to read a proclamation into the record, and this says, whereas tourism is undoubtedly Florida's largest industry that employs more than 944,000 people and produces more than $57 billion in revenue solely upon sales, and whereas tourism is integrated into almost every Florida industry, location, and person, both residential and non-residential, and whereas tourism positively impacts the entire state and also the economy of the city of Homestead, and whereas tourism is the most beneficial economic industry to state and local governments, and whereas tourism in Florida improves the quality of life for its citizens and visitors, and whereas it is in the best interest of Florida's citizens to inform them of the direct and indirect benefit of tourism, and whereas May 13th through 19th, 2006 is being observed throughout the state of Florida as National Tourism Week. We're all in Florida's tourism business. Now therefore, we, the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Homestead, do hereby proclaim that May 13th through 19th, 2006 be recognized as Tourism Week in the City of Homestead. So that's official, and we did that last year, and I think the year before that as well. I think it's so important to know that our tourism industry is picking up here in the city of Homestead. Many thanks to Main Street for helping that happen, and Miss Knowles and her leadership, because you've done a remarkable job since you've been on board, really. I don't think I've had a chance to tell you that, but you really have done a remarkable job. And they just had their Purple Martin event, which I'm sure she's going to comment on in a few minutes. I won't spoil her thunder. But if you saw the newspaper articles in the, I think it was either Thursday or Friday's paper, it was Where We Live, and it was all about Homestead. And that was remarkable. And Lillian and I and the manager's office, Patty, we all worked on that for 6 months to get them to do that. So that was amazing, and it was sitting right on my credenza, and I forgot to bring it, but it's like, it looks like the neighbor section, but it says Where We Live, and every single page. Oh, Carly had it. Hey, Carly, because the Mayor's Youth Council's in there with Ms. Gardner. But here it is, and it says Where We Live, and every single page of this is all about Homestead. And I just think that's wonderful. So wonderful. And I'd also like to thank the news leader, because Mike, you and your team with John and Dick, you've really changed things around for us. It's become a very positive newspaper, and so many wonderful events that happen throughout our beautiful city. And people read this. They really read it, and one day I hope the newsletter will be online so that people can go on and check out our events, because people call me all the time and ask me what's going on in Homestead this weekend, because they know we're the happening place. So anyway, I was very proud of that as far as tourism goes. And, oh, sorry, Mia. So that's all for tourism.
Next is a proclamation.
Oh, wait, I think Patty wanted to take a picture. One second.
Item 5C is a proclamation presentation for Municipal Clerks Week. Councilwoman Wallman.
Yes. Again, one of my other hats is the hat of management here within the city, and we're very proud that our employees are so dedicated, and they're just wonderful. I think if we had handpicked all of them, we couldn't get a better group of people that we work with, and I know I have to work with many different departments, and it's always a pleasure for me to do so. So this is a proclamation that we have today. Whereas the office of the city clerk, a time-honored and vital part of a local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the city clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the city clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agency of government at other levels, and whereas city clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the city clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas city clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, Providence, county, and international professional organizations. Now, therefore, Roscoe Warren, the mayor of the city of Homestead, does recognize the week of April 30th through May 6, 2006 as City Clerks Week in Homestead. And if I could please do something that's a little out of the ordinary, that I'd like to ask Miss Sheila Shedd to come forward. And Sheila, I should have asked you to come forward in the first place. I'm sorry, I was so excited about this newspaper. But I'd like to present to you this proclamation, and I'd like for you to say a few words if you'd like.
I just want to say thank you, and being a city clerk, it's not many people know what a city clerk does, and but it's a really good profession, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
She's really being way too modest. Trust me. She runs a big portion. She runs a big portion of this city, and I'm sure the manager would agree with me, and she does a beautiful job. And I'd like to ask Tiffany and Patty, our deputy city clerk, to come forward and get a picture with this proclamation, okay?
Thank you.
Come on. Tiffany is in our clerk's office, and Patty, you're going to get Yvonne to take a picture. Patty is our deputy city clerk, so. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councilwoman Wallman. 5D is the Mayor's Youth Council washing trip presentation. Councilwoman Garner.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, you've been hearing us talk about what a fun and educational trip we had to Washington, and we had 7 or 8 rolls of film, so we decided to compile them, and Patty did a great job making us a DVD. So I'd like you all to come down, relax, and watch a car. It's 5 or 6 minutes, but it's all the pictures we took and places we went. And council members, while you're watching this, just want to put a thought in your head. Budget time is coming up. This past year, we were budgeted $5,000, and with the outpouring of the community, we barely had enough money to send our students, half of our students, on this trip. So I will be asking in the next upcoming budget to double our budget from $5,000 to $10,000. So I hope I do have your support in this. And we have lots of our Mayor's Youth Council members here. Stand up, guys. I'd like to embarrass two of them. Many of them are graduating seniors this year. Many of them are graduating this year, and two of them were in South Dade's top 25, Kirsten Stuber and Ashley Harris, and they were just recognized last Friday at a breakfast. That will also be available on the city's website under the Mayor's Youth Council.
Well, it's obvious you all had a lot of fun, huh?
It was a lot of fun. We were
Lot of
exhausted.
fun.
We were exhausted, but it was a lot of fun. And thank you to Patty for creating that DVD for us.
Very well done.
Well done.
Item 5E is the Main Street update. Yvonne knows.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and public. The quick, brief business report on Homestead Main Street and then a couple of items on events. The downtown district, the Jacobson's Antiques, which is under new management, they have moved their inventory from South Miami to Homestead and included our items from Shaquille O'Neal's recently purchased home as well as an estate on Fisher Island. If anybody knows Jacobson's Antiques down there, it's a large antique store on Chrome, and second, it is chock-a-block with amazing pieces. So if anybody's into the mood of antique purchasing, please stop by Jacobson's. And Cam Davies has reopened his antique shop, which is right next to the Main Street Cafe, and it has been doing a very brisk business. So that's our commercial for downtown Homestead. Main Street invited downtown businesses this last week to meet with David Reynolds, who is the project manager for Metric Engineering. The reason for the meeting was to discuss the impact of the busway project on existing drainage problems. And Carlos Alba was kind enough from CRA to attend the meeting also to represent the city. The design of the new busway has a lot of people concerned because it's a raised profile. This will not enhance existing drainage problems, as was described by Mr. Reynolds. He was very clear. We had a wonderful presentation. We also had a very strong turnout. 28 people from downtown businesses showed up, so they're all concerned about this. The issue is not that the busway is going to enhance an existing drainage problem. The issue seems to be that there is an existing drainage problem. So a request has been made to have a follow-up meeting with City Public Works officials to discuss and continue this discussion. So that will be an ongoing discussion. Purple Martin, now on to events. The Purple Martin Bike Ride and Festival, these are great successes thanks to the kind generosity of our sponsors. I'm going to do a quick run-through of our sponsors because they made the event what it was. First National Bank, Community Bank, Blake Chevrolet, Knights Bikes, who donated a beautiful Cadillac bike, which was won by one of our business owners downtown. Mr. and Mrs. Richard Alger, who very kindly donated a beautiful Purple Martin house. And on this note, I'd like to thank the City of Homestead for working with us to get that Purple Martin house up in time for the event, and that was specifically Mr. Tom Lambert who helped us walk through the process of that, and we are very grateful. Made the event. Three other sponsors, Cut and Loose, Robert is Here, and Hayatari Restaurant. I'd like to have a special mention made to the hard-working team that made this event possible. This is our first bike ride. It began at the Homestead Speedway in downtown in Homestead, and we had two professional teams show up, plus rank amateurs, one of them sitting in the audience right here. We had a very, very good turnout, and we were so impressed because it was our very first event. So a special mention made to the working team that made this possible: Jim Accurcio from Capri Restaurant, Dr. Frank Spinelli, who represented the Purple Martin Association, Colin and May Camille Tyler, who presented an incredible New Orleans-style lunch for everybody to enjoy, and most especially my associate, Wanda Brown, who has made this event also possible. So thank you. May 19th and 20th is upcoming. We have Main Street is collaborating. Big word for Homestead Main Street is collaboration. And we are collaborating with Homestead Community Concerts, Homestead Center for the Arts, and the Chamber of Commerce, which is bringing the band from U.S. Air Force Reserve in 3 performances. Friday, May 19th at South Dade High School at 7:30 is the Brass Quintet. Saturday, May 20th from 3 to 5 p.m. is the Celtic band Southern Air, which will be performing at the Homestead Art Club Studio 100 at Prime Outlets. And this is all culminating in the evening of May 20th at 7 p.m. with the Blue Notes Jazz Ensemble.
They'll be forming in Losner Park. We'll be serving New Orleans gumbo, red beans and rice, and Cajun jambalaya. And all the fixings will be available at a nominal fee. Tables will be available on a first-come basis. Come and celebrate Armed Forces Month in Homestead and enjoy some really fine entertainment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I have a brief ad on Pastor Gary Johnson, Administrator for Hope for Tomorrow, will come forth and give us an update on the community outreach program.
Giving honor to the mayor and your panel, and to God and to my pastor, Aisha Griffin, in her absence. I'm here as a representative. No, I had wrote all this stuff down on here that I was going to say, and then I seen all the kids going and joining the places and all these different events they participate in. And the mayor and Councilman Hodge, and I think Chief Rose, they know how I always participate in the community and try to make a change. So finally, I found someone that's willing to help me with this change. In our community, our kids don't know about Capitol Hill. They just know about the hills they run up and down. So we here to try to work with the city officials and anyone in Homestead and South Day community, because we at Open Arm Ministry, we want to make a difference, not just in your community, but in ours too. And we decided how we can do this is by joining together and asking y'all to support us. You know, we have kids that would love to go see Capitol Hill, but this time of year when kids are getting out of school with nothing to do, our crime rate go up, young men end up in juveniles, young teenagers get pregnant, don't get a chance to go back to school and finish their education. It's because we don't have any type of structure for them to participate in. So we at Open Arm Ministry, we decided that we are willing to step up and do whatever it takes, with y'all helping us, to provide to get the drugs out of the community, to help the crime rate go down, to make a better community for our kids so they can have hope for tomorrow. And basically, right now we're trying to get a program going for the kids while they're out of school to attend computer classes, to be in rooms playing different games and stuff like that. And we have kids that would love to go to Busch Garden, would love to be sponsored to go watch Shaq do his slam dunk or see the Dolphins play football, but because of the development and the financial status in our neighborhood, those kids are not able to do that. And I remember one thing that Mel told me and Councilman Hodge was that if they could find someone that was willing to make a difference, they would do anything to help, and they have been doing that. Matter of fact, y'all are only two that I have ever in Chief Rose that got participation out of. So we here now, and I think you have our letter of proposal and the things that we need on there. But what we basically here for is to let y'all know that you do have someone that's concerned about the kids and about what's going on in the community. The majority of the people, they sit back, complain, they won't come out and vote or any of that stuff, you know. But we at Open Arm Ministry are willing to do that, and we're willing to help make a change with y'all help.
Thank you, Pastor. And let me thank you all for the work that you're doing in the community. It is so very important, and we appreciate what you're doing. And just know that you have a partner with the City Homestead. Thank you, sir. All right, the consent agenda, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilman Hodge. Any questions on the consent agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearings, ordinance, land use items, Mr. Rice.
Mr. Mayor, just first of all, I would like to request an executive session in the case of Anna Mary Campbell. That's an old workman's compensation case. Second, if it's all right with you, I'm going to have James read this so that I minimize my TV time tonight with this bandage on my face for hitting my wife's car. But before I turn it over to James, I would like to tell you that there's been a major change in the clerk's office since Sheila got there. And we work with her every day. What she's doing there is a leap forward and a step forward from, we see it as we work with her as the office is getting more and more organized. So I just wanted to mention that before I got off camera. Do you mind, Jane? Much better looking than me anyway.
Please be advised that the following items on the board's agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any items on the agenda. Hearing none, at this time the clerk will swear in any persons who wish to testify on any quasi-judicial item.
Please stand and raise your right hand. I state your name. Hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you.
Item A is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting final plat approval for Florence at Crystal Lakes, located south of Southwest 312th Street, Campbell Drive, west of Southwest 142nd Avenue, north of C-103 Canal, and east of Southwest 147th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, a 14.7-acre site consisting of 112 townhouse units and providing for an effective date.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Hodge, is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Porter. Any questions?
Question, Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Now I'll ask our attorneys and staff, whoever's applicable. This item and the next, I believe, are the two final plat readings that were deferred from a few council meetings ago due to concurrency issues. Is that correct?
Well, they were deferred from a meeting a couple weeks ago at the applicant's request. We had put in that one condition, and they wanted to discuss the condition with their attorneys prior to going forward.
Right, and I understand that condition provides that upon a reevaluation of levels of service, particularly on Campbell Drive, that there can be further mitigation, if you will, required from the applicant. But it occurred to me these two final plats, I believe, are different from most that come before us in that many of the final plats, by the time we read them, the homes have already been constructed and are ready for occupancy. I don't believe that's the case here at Crystal Lakes. Is that correct? And many times we talk about, some of these final plats, we approve 2 and 3 years after the T plats leave here and go to the county. We've had some of those instances. But here,
I think this is earlier in the game, yes, sir.
right, we're much earlier in the game. Just so we're all clear, what are some of the remedies we have? What's the stick that we have to exact that mitigation in the future? Is it the withholding of COs, final inspections, those types of remedies, such that clearly we've got security, collateral and security, if you will, to enforce
I'm going to
contributions.
defer this to the attorney for a sec, so I don't end up getting myself and say the wrong thing legally. James?
The condition that's currently in this resolution, along with the proposed final plat after, the two final plats after, if you recall, are the condition that we had added a couple weeks ago. What that condition does, it basically stipulates that staff will go back and look at certain status. We'll look at the traffic implications or traffic analysis, and if the information that was submitted wasn't exactly the correct information, it provides an opportunity for the city to actually make the applicant mitigate. In this particular case, I think staff is still looking at those traffic reviews, but from every indication thus far, it appears to be that it's okay. Staff has made the determination that certain T-plats and site plans, that's the point at which adequate public facilities are granted and vested for concurrency purposes on a number of these final plats that are coming through. So this condition provides an opportunity for us to go back if need be. The stick would be at this point CO or building permit if the building permit hasn't been issued.
That was my ultimate question. The ability to enforce compliance is through final CO. If CO were to take place before we had our
that would be correct. That would be correct. Yes.
But are we going to be in a situation in the future where buildings are constructed and ready for occupancy at the same time final plats being approved? Or are we going, with this concurrency issue, are we going to have these conditions in effect earlier in the game?
Let me start that, and then James can correct me if necessary, Mr. Losner. First, there is a period of time between once we approve T-plat and it goes on to the county approved T-plat before it can go back to us for a final plat. That still cannot be that fast. The county doesn't work that fast. Maybe, in this case, maybe a good thing, but you're not going to have a final plat that quickly on the heels of a T-plat.
I understand, but in the past, we've allowed construction with a hold harmless agreement.
Yes, sir. We have done the T-plat, hold harmless, go out and construct. Now, one of the things that I want to add is that, as James has said, we're looking at everything. Looking at it in resolution of all the materials that are being looked at, sifted through from the standpoint of traffic studies, et cetera, needs to be done and will be done within the next month and change. So we have a period of time, and maybe I'm optimistic in a month, but we have a short period of time in which these conditions will be put on there. Shortly after that, we'll know exactly what we're doing, or a better idea of what we're doing, who got there first, who needs to mitigate whatever, and that should be part of the things as they fold through, or they continue on through the process in the future. Right now, we're in a certain amount of catch-up stage to at least put conditions so that it doesn't get away entirely while we go back and review it. But sometime in the relatively near future, we'll know this as we go forward.
So the practical reality is that we'll sit down and hopefully have some agreement on what mitigation, if any, is required long before somebody comes in and asks us for a CO.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Any other comments? Well, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Garner? Yes. Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item B is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting final plat approval for Venice at Crystal Lakes, located south of Southwest 312th Street, Campbell Drive, west of Southwest 142nd Avenue, north of the C-103 Canal, and east of Southwest 147th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, a 13.56-acre site consisting of 248 multifamily units and providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion offered, Mayor.
Second, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Hodge, second by Councilman Porter. Any comments from council?
Yes, Mayor. I know there's been, thank you.
On my calculations, there's been a lot of talk about concurrency and traffic issues, and I know we've had the same conversation over and over again about the overall density, but my calculations are this is 18.28 units to the acre in this particular PUD. Yes?
Yes, ma'am. And let me explain how that happened. First of all, you're looking at the way we looked at the PUDs and the land uses a couple of years ago. This was approved, I think, in the end of '04. In July of '05, we redid the entire PUD code and rearranged how density was created, what exists, what we're going to have. This is the old version. Now, under the old version, if you take the entire 68-acre site and apply 6 units to the acre, you get the number of units, and you work it back, you get 5.28. But in this individual PUD, is it 18.28? Yes, ma'am.
Yep. Yep, thank you very much.
That's the reason why the thing was changed, the PUD ordinance was changed in July of '05.
Right, it's not final till it's final. But yes, thank you for the background.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Question, Mayor.
Is that it, Ms. Bell?
Thank you.
Mr. Porter?
I know a lot of these PUDs, the process that it takes to get from start to finish is fairly long and drawn out. From a city exposure position, to what exposure do you have after, if Crystal Lakes were to be denied by the council at this late date? Maybe this is a legal question. To try to apply a new rule to an old game, this is always, we've been changing the rules a lot, trying to get it fine-tuned, but there's been people that have left, we call it the pipeline. There's been people on one side of the pipeline, some people in the pipeline, and some people out of the pipeline. What kind of exposure do we have as a city if we decided to say no at this late date?
That you'll have to ask either Mr. Weiss or Mr. White.
Councilman Porter, the PUD master plan is the point at which you set the parameters for the allowable density and the number of units within that particular PUD. It's the skeleton, it's the shell, it's the basic format that vests that property with those development rights at master plan. The site plan is more of a formality, if you will, that will dictate how those particular units that you granted approval for will look on the particular site, the layout, if you will. But if you said 10, they get 10. And that was the point at master plan at which they're vested by you with those development rights.
When was that master plan final?
I believe in late '04. But even so, the T-plat, which we use more often in terms of vesting, was essentially August of '05. So the T-plat came essentially at the same time that the new PUD changes were being made, and was felt at that point in time you couldn't go back and change things around. That's the master plan.
Master plan was October 18, 2004.
Okay, so the question is, now we know that background, what kind of exposure does not approving or not going forward with the original intent, what kind of exposure does the city have? There's got to be a financial exposure to the city.
Not knowing how you're going to vote on this particular item, I'd be...
But it has everything to do with how you vote on this issue, because the thing is, this has been on the table a very, very long time, and some of the concurrency problems, some of the issues that we're dealing with have only become major issues in the last short period of time. And we're trying to address those, but to go back, that's something that was, crafted in '04 and '05 is a little hard for me to sit here and say to anyone, now's the time, to back out, so to speak.
At the risk of eating these words, I would just tell you that we have, at this point, this far down in the process, after they've been granted this particular type of density some time ago, the council has very limited discretion in granting this.
In not granting this?
In not granting, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be at all cagey, but whatever I say here I could see it again in some sort of a lawsuit, so I want to be very careful. I think you understand what I'm saying.
I understand, and I just, it needs to be clear that, over time, sometimes you make decisions 2, 3, 4 years ago that sometimes you have to follow through with, and there was some granted right that was given.
Right.
And consequently, since that time, the rules have somewhat been modified, and yet today's PUD would not be able to get by with this type of development.
Right. And just sort of in general, just to clarify the record, there is a concept called vested rights. And what it means is that at certain stages in the process, people become vested with the right to do a particular thing, and even though you change the rule afterwards to correct a situation which is developing, people have certain rights to what was granted before and have a right to rely upon what the government did before. So that's just sort of an addition to what was said before.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
No.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
No.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item C is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting final plat approval for Atlantis at Oasis, located in the northwest corner of the Oasis PUD, west of Southwest 152nd Avenue, north of 320th Street, Maury Drive, and south of the C-103 Canal as legally described in Exhibit A, an 18.4-acre site consisting of 112 single-family units and providing for an effective date.
Motion, Mayor.
Offered by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Porter. Comments from council? Any initial comments from council? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I will end the public hearing. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item D is an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting the request of Coop LLC for a rezoning from AU Agricultural District to B2 Retail Commercial District, also granting site plan approval for a commercial retail center located at the southwest corner of Campbell Drive, southwest 312th Street, and Kingman Road, southwest 152nd Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, an approximately 4.91-acre site consisting of 3 buildings, a 4,058-square-foot bank, 13,934 square-foot pharmacy, and a 2-story office building with a total of 19,754 square feet, and providing for an effective date. This is second reading.
I'll move it, Mayor.
Moved by Councilman Bell, second by Councilman Hodge. Any initial questions from council?
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
As you know this, I guess I'll direct this to James and to Mr. Chandra. Some of the further items we have tonight, it talks about contributing fair share for roadway improvements and so forth. I don't see that condition here. Can you differentiate those situations for me?
Yes, sir. If you read the traffic consultant's report on page 2, basically what we asked the applicant to do was to create a left turn lane from Campbell Drive on to 152 and a left turn lane from 152 on to Campbell Drive. And those are two of the things that are listed in the transportation master plan as short-term improvements. So we felt based on the size of the property and what the trips were, that doing these two short-term improvements basically
So
took care of
apples to apples, that is, that those improvements are their fair share contribution for the roadway impacts. Okay. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ashman. This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item E is an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting the request of Murray Drive LLC for a rezoning from R3 Multiple Apartment District to B2 Retail Commercial District. Also granting preliminary plat and site plan approval for a commercial retail center and self-storage facility located on the south side of Southwest 320th Street, Maury Drive, and east of Southwest 162nd Avenue, Farm Life School Road, as legally described in Exhibit A, a 4.22-acre site consisting of 29,000 square feet of retail floor area and 34,800 square feet of self-storage floor area, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it. Moved by Councilwoman Bell, is there a second?
Second it with question here.
Second by Councilwoman Wallman. Question, Councilwoman Wallman?
Yes, the traffic, I'm not sure if it's a letter from Mr. Sanchez, dated October 11th, 2005. It says, it talks about the proposed project occupies a triangular piece of land located US 1 in Maui Drive. I just want to make sure that no studies were done.
That is unfortunately the wrong piece. I believe what you received earlier today is that one which is actually from the urban designer was...
We just received something and none of us have had a chance to read it.
That's why I'm explaining to you why it was there, ma'am. You have the response from being the urban designer. It had the right number on it, but it was the wrong piece of information. So what we provided you this evening is the right piece. Again, it makes no difference, or it should not make a difference in terms of his report, because basically his report is discussing the urban design, which is fine. However, there is the traffic report in there as well, which does indicate that they need to, and in the resolution itself is the indication they need to pay their fair share towards Maui Drive, because that's where they basically are. I discussed it with the consultant today, our consultant, just to make sure in case this question came up, that based on where they are, there's a very limited result of their work, of their project on Campbell Drive. But obviously it affects Maui Drive, sorry about that. It affects Maui Drive, which they're going to be at. So there is the indication here they need to pay their fair share of Maui Drive.
The triangular piece on 162nd and Maui, right beside it, that, the subject property, what's planned for that property?
I honestly don't remember, ma'am.
Well, it's important for me to know that, because you're talking about a 29,000 square foot retail center fronting Southwest 320th Street with a 264-bay self-storage facility. Now, if I'm not completely wrong, that's going right alongside the church, correct?
There's a property...
Excuse me. Okay, that's an existing church.
He has an answer for you.
Okay, this is...
But you can understand, I mean, we really need to know this.
Is the church up there? I agree.
Yes.
According to staff, the church is up to the west side of the property, ma'am.
I'm sorry,
according to staff, the church extends to the west side of the subject property.
Okay, to the west side. Okay, but across this, just catty-corner from that, the other corner, what's designated for that corner? That triangular...
The little triangle piece...
It's just filled in.
No, wait. If it's a triangle piece above Lucy, with a little bit of luck, that'll be the ramp to the Lucy... Maui, I'm sorry, wrong change.
One of those streets.
Here's the church. You're talking about it here?
Yeah. In the church?
Right there.
Right. And so this is all the church property. What about this? Across the street? Because we're talking about a very narrow two-lane road.
Maui, 320 will eventually be the right-of-way.
It's just been filled in. It's just like 2 acres. Nothing's just filled in.
The roadway is expected to be right-of-way of 100 feet. on 320. So there will be the capacity for 4 lanes of traffic.
But will there be a 4-lane road there?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I cannot tell you exactly when, but based on all these developments that are running along those things, they have to pay their fair share to build that road.
And this participant would also have to contribute
ma'am.
to that road as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And permits or anything else wouldn't be issued until the road issue was taken care of?
We can do that, as long as the attorneys feel that that's appropriate. I have no problem with that.
At least for the
Because again,
concession of the road?
as I mentioned, Mr. Lassner, earlier, Ms. Loman, we need to resolve those issues, and there are going to be a group of these things where they're going to look like they're not really resolved yet. That's why, again, this one has the stipulation by the attorneys in the resolution that they pay their fair share of Maury Drive, which is the 320.
Isn't it, and I don't have the picture there in front of me, but I don't have time to look for it here, but just a few parcels down, didn't we recently, like within the last year, allow for a single family to go in and build some houses there? There was a family that owned some property and they wanted to build some houses on a parcel. Do you remember that, Mr. Longhouse?
I don't think so here, ma'am, because if you look at the subject property, below that is part of Homestead 50, and to the east of that is another property we'll see tonight, and further to the east is Homestead 50.
The other side. The other side of the other side of where the turnpike.
The other side.
There's a canal there, right?
There's nothing there, is it?
She's talking about it.
There was a family. I remember a family.
So on the other side of the house, we have to no, right here.
And that's single family?
There's 6 houses. I forgot the name of it.
Ms. Wellman, I believe, according to Ray, let me turn this around.
I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing here with putting a retail shopping center and a 264-bay storage unit that backs up to another, it was Mercedes, I believe, and then the church just doesn't...
Mercedes, as far as if talking about Mercedes project, is further down on Maury Drive. You have the Homestead 50, and then next would be Mercedes, and then the end of that would be 152.
But it is zoned for light industrial?
Light commercial.
Future lanes.
This one here? Light commercial.
Light commercial. Okay, I'm sorry to take it.
Councilman Bell?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, actually taking a look at this, I noted that, and this is what is quite reassuring to me, is that number one, this is a multiple apartment district, so this is a very positive change to go to light commercial. Also, that the retail center, consisting of 29,000 square feet of retail, is going to be fronting 320th Street, and the self-storage is going to be at the rear of the property, which makes this very conducive to something that would be positive for the community and not negative. And when you look at the flip side of a multiple family apartment, as opposed to light commercial, I'm going to go for this light commercial anytime. Thank you.
Councilman Hodge?
Thank you, Mayor. Also, basically what my comments are this evening is, I do also agree with Councilwoman Bell on the commercial piece. Finally, right? However, I just wanted to add, because I noticed that the traffic use has become a big part of our decision making in the last past few months in some of the studies that we've received, and it seems that we're starting to get a lot of commercial pieces now coming on, and that's a good thing, other than the homes. But then we also have the traffic issue that we're having to deal with, and this condition has been placed in all the commercial pieces that create jobs, and I guess I want to say the right thing, and kind of like you tonight, you don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but it seems like we've had a lot of residential products come come aboard, and those are the items that really have impacted our transportation issue. And now that we have commercial products coming available, we're now taking a serious look at our transportation issue. And it seems to me that we're starting to add this condition to a lot of items because of our transportation issue. And what I'm getting kind of leery about is the fact that we are putting this condition in too many items is coming before us. And I don't know about the rest of these guys, but I'm pretty busy throughout my day, and it'll be hard to keep track of going back, because once we approve these things, we've approved them, and they may never come before us again unless we get some type of feedback on what's going on once we've approved them. Then we don't know whether or not that traffic issue has been addressed to our likings or not. And what I'm getting at is how are we going to position ourselves where we can continue, track these conditions and make sure that they are met before the items move forward.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I just want to make it clear to people who are listening and people of the audience that everything we approved to date, as required by the city code, there are certain triggers in the city code where concurrency has to be met. Everything we approved to date met that concurrency. And we start placing this condition because now the projections show that we could, present time we have road levels are acceptable with the exception of 2 segments within the city. And based on projections, we're going to have problems in many other locations. That's why we are placing this condition now for final plats, because if you approve a final plat, that's it, they have practically, I don't know if it's the proper term, is first trial, but it's irrevocable concurrency granting practically. So we're just being on the cautious side to place these conditions and looking at the future that we're going to have road level issues. So we want everybody to be aware of this.
Thank you for that, that answer, because, it seems like we're adding this condition to a lot of the items, and more especially the commercial items, which is the ones that we need more than the residents at this point. And, it just kind of, was jerking my chain a little bit to see commercial items come forth and have a condition placed upon it, and it's really the residential that's created the traffic forecast that we're having to deal with. So I just wanted to try and throw up a red flag about that, so we can look a little bit better maybe on the residential products than the commercial.
Mike, let me ask you a question about the transportation study that we have ongoing. With these issues that are coming up in terms of concurrency, wouldn't that study kind of address some of that?
Actually, the master plan addressed many of the issues, and we even went farther and above and beyond what the master plan could do, and we hired consultants to practically look at the traffic modeling, and we're working with Mr. Porter, the chairman of infrastructure, and we actually have some reports coming your way. We're working with Mr. Porter on these reports to practically address everything based on existing conditions and conditions for the next 5 years. And after this report, we will be working on another report to come up with potential funding sources and solutions.
So a lot of these mitigation issues will be addressed at some point once we get this comprehensive transportation study back.
Oh, definitely.
Mayor, can I make a comment? Mr. Porter, if you don't mind, what we all need to realize, a few years ago, we took the position that one of the most important things to connect east-west Homestead was the improvement of 4-lane of 328. Went to Washington, D.C., secured $7.6 million, 5 of which is going into that improvement of that project. That project is a county project. It's right now what's holding us up is some interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County so that we could get this project under the city's control. We feel like we could cut the thing in half time-wise. They projected it out for 10 years, the improvement process for 10 years. We don't think we can do it. I think we can do it much quicker than that. Plus, the improvement goes all the way to 137th Avenue. The county did not address 137th Avenue in their initial studies. So, you know, to say that it's just kind of crept up on us, it really hasn't. The problem is some of the other agencies that we have to deal with, unfortunately because of their situation, deal in crisis management. They're not in the position at this particular point to forecast where they need to go. They're always reacting to what has to be done. And unfortunately, it's going to be incumbent upon the city to design its own mechanism to fix its own problems and then be repaid over time by the county or whomever. And that was one of the things that we talked about on our last committee of the whole meeting, that staff is trying to craft a tool that we can use to possibly upfront some of the monies to do some of the improvements, because if you wait for every small development to come in and 4-lane or improve the 150 feet in front of their development, it may take many, many years before we see a full 4-lane 320th. So that may be an issue where the city might, I think 320 is our road anyway. I don't believe we have to do anything there, because that could just be an internal problem. But when you look at 328, when you look at 312, when you look at 167, when you look at any additional turnpike access, there's nobody out there saying, hey, we're going to run to your aid and fix your problem. So, you know, as we go forward, certainly the staff is doing everything in its power to make these agencies or these developers coming in saying you're going to pay a cost, and it's going to be your fair share based on the trips that you create. And we may, as a city, have to find a way, and this is going to be a question that we're going to have to wrangle with ourselves. How do we fund some of these projects so that we can live with the improvement today, and over time as the developments come in, they will pay back that investment. And I want to commend staff and the developing community, because we really have had to face this problem like running into a brick wall. But I will say without a doubt that there is a potential solution on the table, and it's going to be totally upon the back of the city to figure out how to do it with the developers and the outside community coming in at some possible later date. And that's what we're trying to work on right now. And Rick, is that pretty much correctly where we are in this whole thing, Mr. Manager?
That's correct. Staff's put a lot of hours in lately with our consultants, and we should, in the not too distant future, have some remedies for our issues, and then how we're going to cost that out and how divide it up.
Well, if we follow the timeline that we spoke about when the council spoke the other night, it'll be within the next 2 weeks that you'll come back with something, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that'll be...
Because it's become a critical situation, and council is tired of getting beat up about it, and it is the #1 issue that we need to deal with for this community, because it will, if we cannot come to some sort of solution, it is a self-imposed moratorium on this community, because the state concurrency cannot be met. So if you want to freeze everything, and as Councilman Hodge says, if you want to freeze everything just about the time you have business opportunities coming into your community, it is not the appropriate time to have to shut the door. So as a city and as a council and as a staff, there is a potential solution on the table, and it will be here very, very quickly, and we will have to react very, very quickly. So I hope that can settle some of the confusion, and I hope we can continue to do things in a positive, straightforward manner that makes everyone be counted appropriately. And that's some of the stuff that we're trying to figure out, to make sure that everyone has been counted appropriately for their impact. And if the numbers were not absolutely correct, we want to be able to go back and say, hey, your numbers that you produced weren't necessarily correct, they're more like this. And so your fair share is not X, it's X plus XX. So the staff has been tasked, you guys at the last committee, the whole task of staff, and gave them a very, very tight timeline. And it will be here very, very quickly for us to review and see if we can come up with a solution internally. And the manager will have to find a way to pay for it.
Mr. Porter, if I can add to that for a sec, as you've been explaining certain things, staff is whispering in my ears about a few other things. I need to make sure that I didn't lead anybody astray at this point. I'm not sure about the 100-foot right-of-way. I thought it was, but apparently they're not too sure about that. We'll have to verify that between now and the next reading to make sure we know exactly what it is. The other thing that I mentioned earlier is that the available capacity on Maury, available capacity on 328.
No.
320.
Well, let me go to the next one while we'll go back and talk about that for a second. As indicated in the beginning going in, this is R3, which is a multiple apartment district, and the changes to the light commercial. Make sure we know what the light commercial is for the future land use is light commercial. The comment from the consultant's report said the consultant concluded that the implementation of proposed development would not exceed the City of Homestead and Miami-Dade County concurrency requirements. In addition, the report states that the results of the capacity analysis revealed that the intersection of Southwest 320 and Southwest 162, the intersection of Southwest 328 and 162 Avenue, and the proposed driveways would operate at acceptable levels of service and will have minimal impacts on the surrounding roadways. That is what I mentioned in the beginning, that this project itself does not have a direct effect on Campbell Drive, but it does have an effect, obviously, on the street in which it's going to be on. And the street in which it's going to be on is where we call the fair share to help build that street, which is, I keep getting confused with this thing, 320. Whatever other name it has, there's too many names for everything, and I get too confused. But at 320, they will pay their fair share to construct 320 to be an acceptable road. I hope I haven't confused you all guys too much to get back to the same point, and if I have, I really apologize.
Councilman Waldman?
First of all, of course, it's a no-brainer that we want to get rid of the R3 and go to the light commercial. However, I will have to ask this question, and then I'll be finished. I know I used to lease a store in the Falls area, a 3,000 square foot store for a retail business that my family owned. And you're talking about 29,000 square feet. That's approximately 3,000. I don't know which I have in mind, but approximately 3,000 square foot units. And I know how much traffic that is. And then you're talking about 260 four-bay self-storage facility, and I know how much traffic that is, and I just have to depend on staff on 4.22 acres. Is that enough room to handle all of that? And I have my doubts.
And the only thing I can answer that in response is that staff feels that it isn't acceptable. The storage units, while there is a fair number of them, will not generate as much traffic as a lot of other uses because you don't visit your storage unit continually. There are a lot of units, but you're not visiting them constantly. That's basically, I believe, why staff feels that the applicable numbers are correct and that this is a good thing to go forward with. I'm sorry if I can't make you feel any better about the answer. That's the best answer I can offer at this point, ma'am.
I would like to see another use. I mean, I want to see the light commercial, but will we have a chance to go back and revisit this when they come forward with their drawings and their renderings?
No, ma'am. You're basically a site plan and T-plat. This comes back a second time, but then it goes forward from there.
Well, on the record, I'm sorry, but I just cannot see 260 4 or 5 storage units with the draw-down doors, and every Saturday and Sunday everybody going there to do their thing, and then plus the 29,000 square foot shopping center right behind that church. I just can't see it. But I do agree with the light commercial. I mean, if there was another use, so just so you know, I'm sorry.
If I may, Mr. Mayor. We have our traffic, Lila Batiste, 701 Brickell Avenue, for the record. We have our traffic consultant here. He is prepared to speak on the record about the trips generated by this project, but before he does, and which shows to be no more than 1 vehicle per every 30 seconds, but I'll let him get into that in more detail. But I just wanted to make a couple of points as it relates to bringing commercial uses closer to where you have a lot of residential projects coming in, for example, Homestead 50. What eventually will happen is you will relieve traffic on Campbell Drive because people don't need to go to Campbell all the time for their neighborhood service uses, whether it be the cleaners or something quick to eat, mailbox, etc., that thing. So in time, when you bring retail closer to the residential areas, you will relieve some of the traffic going to Campbell Drive, which is obviously an area of concern. Also, as it relates to the developer's fair share of his impacts to Southwest 320th Street, this developer is prepared to build that portion of the roadway that's adjacent to his property, and that would essentially serve as his payment or mitigation to his proportionate share of that road. And then you'll have Homestead 50 and the other developers doing the same as they come in. And I talked to Mr. Chandra this afternoon. We can get our client as well as the representatives for Homestead 50 together if they want that roadway done at a certain time or however they want to arrange that. But the client is prepared to build that portion of the roadway prior to obtaining any building permit or CO for the retail center. And then lastly, Mr. Porter, or Councilman Porter, as it relates to Southwest 328th Street, I've been told by the traffic consultant that leg between 152nd and 162nd Avenue is supposed to be under construction within a year, so that will help to address some of those traffic concerns. But if I can introduce Hank Fodry so he can address Ms. Waldman's concerns on the traffic.
The traffic, please come forward. I mean, of course, the traffic, I understand, and I felt better after hearing the conversation, the dialogue, with our staff and Mr. Porter. However, I'm more concerned about that much activity on 4.22 acres. I'm concerned about that.
It's my understanding, and I'll let Hank and the clients make, that a warehouse facility, a storage facility, does not generate as many trips or uses as you think, because once people drop their stuff off, really they don't come and visit it regularly or every weekend, and it's just basically a one-time trip.
Come sign something. Only visitation rights twice a month.
It's a one-time trip, and so the way the project is designed is with the facility in the back to minimize not only the aesthetic impact on the project, but so that it doesn't interfere with the retail traffic. But I don't know if you still need to hear from, of course, Hank.
Good evening. My name is Henry Fondry. My offices are at 12651 South Dixie Highway. The retail is, this is a dangerous mic, as you proved earlier. The retail may be smaller, but that's where virtually all the traffic is coming from. The self-store, according to the national statistics that I checked, has very little traffic during the day, about 80 to 100 trips during a day, 24-hour day, and only 8 during the PM peak hour. And I heard your concerns about the weekend also, and I checked, and it's less than 80 on a Saturday. Again, the national statistics. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to use it in Homestead, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot more than this. I've seen some other studies done by the people, an advocate group for the the self-store industry, and they showed even less numbers than the statistics I'm using. I'm using the Institute of Transportation Engineers equations and rates, which are the standards that we normally use for impact studies. It's going to be very large, but the self-store should have very little impact on traffic out there. And the retail is, as Lila said, it's about 120 trips per hour for the retail plus the 8. So we're talking about one car about every 30 seconds coming or going there. I'm not trying to say that it is nothing, but it is not a major traffic impact in that area. And we have worked closely with your traffic consultant. We did some revisions at their request and looked at the impacts in the local area, and we found that everything would be working with the improvements to 128th Street. Without the improvements, I think you're going to have some problems, but I checked with the Public Works Department for Miami-Dade County, and they had told me that the design is complete and that they're prepared to start within the year unless there was something relating to what Mr. Porter was talking about earlier that would hold it up. But the section that is in this area should be under construction soon. But if there are other questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Any other comments?
Comment. Not addressing that, but I would like to comment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I just want to compliment the applicant. I think that what's proposed here is not only a good product that's really needed, but it's a good location. It's off the beaten path, and as the 167th Avenue corridor develops and the Mercedes Home project, it gives all of those new homeowners the opportunity to come, and I hope it gives economic opportunity for mom and pop type stores that we've seen, the barber shops, the beauty salons, maybe a little specialty restaurant where those mom and pop facilities have probably priced out of the market for the Campbell Drive frontage. It's going to create a mini neighborhood, I think, type center, and as we continue to, as the majority of council continues to approve more and more townhouses and multifamily and smaller yards and smaller units that don't have storage capacity, but the reality is that self-storage facility is going to be a much needed commodity here. So I want to be very complimentary of the applicant. I want to have self-storage facilities needed. I think you've done a good job of designing and hiding it and abiding by the conditions that have been requested by planning and zoning. Well, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Let me ask a question about this trap. And Mr. Port, I'm sure you are looking at it. I've heard this evening, if it has a direct impact, then we look for mitigation. But what about the indirect impact on some of these new projects coming in? No opportunity for mitigation, don't have the direct impact, but it will have an indirect impact on some of these arterial roads. Do we not ask for mitigation on that too? Is there state law that prevents us from doing that?
Mr. Mayor, if I might, the way the traffic analysis is looked at, it first looks to see if there's roadway capacity or capacity for that roadway or roadway networks. Once it's determined that there is capacity, or there may not be capacity, if there is capacity, then there's adequate public facilities to service the development, and the project can move forward. If there are impacts on certain roadway intersections or roadway links along that section that are failing or that need to be mitigated, that's the point at which that those trips that are generated from that project have to mitigate the negative impact of the level of service, the failing level of service at that intersection. So the impact that you are trying to mitigate is directly related to the project, or the project's directly related to that impact. So you can't just start extracting or trying to trying to discern too far out. You have to look specifically at those failing roadway links or those intersections and what improvements will mitigate or address, or what roadway facilities would address those specific impacts.
Okay. So there's some uniform methodology that everybody uses to make that determination. It just concerns me that I guess the methodology said there's a specific pattern, traffic pattern that, Mayor Warren will take Campbell and then exit to get to my business. So he won't go around, he just take that specific route and as a result, there's some impact and, you required mitigation.
There's a very specific traffic analysis and methodology used or utilized in looking at what impacts a development or a certain square footage or residential generates, what type of trips on that roadway network.
Mayor, let me just say one thing too. If you've only got one choice, you're limited in your ability to divide the traffic into different areas. And so what we will see in the next few weeks is the solution to the problem is being able to give people options to go other ways, other than the only route that they have right now. So when some of these other arterials, the Farm Life corridor opens up and we get it 4-lane, we can get the 328 improvement 4-lane, we can get the ramps on 328 on and off the turnpike, we can get additional ramps on 312 where we currently have a crossover problem. These 3 or 4 small improvements will, by percentage, give us huge advantages in the whole corridor because it opens up more than one way to get from point A to point B. Good. So their counting car methodology is certainly accurate, but from a driver's standpoint, give me more than one opportunity to do what I need to do, and I will be able to divert to the easiest flow, and we'll spread out the traffic over an area instead of just putting it all on 312 at Campbell Drive in the Turnpike.
Thank you, sir. Well, it took Ms. Ballman to keep us on the subject for about 35 minutes, and I'm going to open it to the public. If there's no comment, I'm going to ask the council to allow us to move on with this first reading, and if there's any additional concerns, we could address it at the second reading. Any public input? Any public comments at this time? If not, I'll close the public hearing. And no final comments from council. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Waldman? No, really, hold on. Give your traffic analysis array, or analysis, how do you pronounce? Analyst arrays. Hesitantly, yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, legislative matters, ordinances. This is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting the request of Rose West Developers Corporation for a small-scale amendment to the comprehensive plan by changing the land use designation of an approximately 10-acre site from low-density residential use (LRU) to medium-density residential use (MRU), located north of Southwest 328th Street, North Canal Drive, west of Southwest 162nd Avenue, and southeast of the Florida Turnpike as legally described in Exhibit A and providing for an effective date. This is second reading.
Offer motion, Mayor.
Offered by Councilman Hodge, second by Councilwoman Bell. Any questions from council?
No question, but a comment, Mayor.
I got a comment.
Thank you. Yes, I support this, and for the reason being, of course, I want to bring these 2 second readings together under 8A 1 and 2, that it actually brings us a net reduction in density. When you're going from we're going from a low residential to medium residential, we're going from 6 to 10 on the one item, but then on the following item, we are going from on a 10-acre site where they can literally put 60 units to commercial. There's a very good exchange, and the reason I wanted to highlight this because I had questions from 2 different reporters on this particular issue. This makes very, very good sense. and it has nothing to do with site plans, it has nothing to do with anything but simply a change to the land use designation. So I heartily support this. It's very wise because we're gaining commercial instead of residential. Again, we are gaining 10 acres of commercial, and we are getting a net reduction in density of 20 units to the acre. So this just makes great sense. That's it. I'm off my soapbox on that one, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good point.
Mayor,
Mr. Porter?
I really never envisioned anything but the single family over there, and then obviously the commercial aspect of it as well. There is no other commercial in that whole corridor. You've got the substation to one side, you've got a city-owned piece of property to one side, Audubon Village, or Audubon Drive, right across the street, you've got the residential right up to North Canal. The metal building that is Villages and Homestead, what is that going to be used for in the future? Any ideas? The farm life, be the south, east corner.
The metal building in the corner right next to the school site is a facility that apparently will stay as it is. It's a storage facility.
So the school site is next to that.
Yes,
so there's no other commercial out there other than what was just potentially approved right at the 320th and 167th.
That's basically the reason why the original thing was suggested, yes, sir.
Well, I hate to tie the two together, but the two are tied together because if you change one, I have a problem with both of them. So just for the record, I have a problem with both of them because looking across the street, it is nothing but residential right now. And every corner doesn't necessarily have to have commercial on it. And living in that neighborhood, I disagree with staff's recommendations.
I understand.
And it's not a problem. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Councilman Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
No.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item is the second reading of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting the request of Rose South Dade Corporation for a small-scale amendment to the comprehensive plan by changing the land use designation of an approximately 10-acre site from low-density residential use, LRU, to light commercial use, LCU, located on the northwest corner of Southwest 328th Street, North Canal Drive, and Southwest 162nd Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. This is second reading.
I'll move this, Mayor.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilman Hodge. Questions from council? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
No.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting the request of Christopher J. Blunzer for a small-scale amendment to the comprehensive plan by changing the land use designation of an approximately .42-acre site from low-density residential use, LRU, to light commercial use, LCU, located at 140 Northeast 15th Street, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. This is second reading.
I'll move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Losner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Amanda Garner. Questions from council? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting the request of Portobello Estates, LLC, for a small-scale amendment to the comprehensive plan by changing the land use designation of an approximately 9-acre site from low-density residential use, LRU, to medium-density residential use, MRU, located along the south side of Southwest 320th Street, Maury Drive, east of Southwest 162nd Avenue, and southeast of the Florida Turnpike, as legally described in Exhibit A, and providing for an effective date. This is second reading.
So moved, Mayor.
Moved by Councilwoman Garner. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Porter.
Question.
Question, Mr. Porter?
In the map, the gray area to the east in the map, what's the land use there? That's the Homestead.
I believe it's Homestead 50, yes, sir.
Okay, has it been decided what type of residential is going in that particular shaded area?
Yes, sir. Right now, I don't recall, but I'm sure Mr. Shiver, who represents Homestead 50, could probably tell you quicker than I can remember it, but it is Homestead 50 to the east side.
Mr. Porter, Steve Shiver, 47 North Chrome Avenue. I apologize for my voice. A little windy at the Farm Bureau barbecue. There's single family to the east immediately. To the south is townhouse. If you'll remember, Homestead 50 had two products in the 50 acres itself. This application, or excuse me, this amendment was after we worked with your urban designer and your city staff. We recommend actually this use, this change, because of the buffer. You just talked a few moments ago about the storage units and things that are going to be at the parcel immediately west of this. So you have a gradual buffer as it goes to a more lower density, more single family estate, not estate density, but single family.
So the gray area that I'm asking about is single family, and then this could potentially be multifamily, low density.
This is low density.
Medium density.
Low density is 6 units to the acre. What we're looking at is a product that, in all probability, will be a townhouse product that buffers and again, it's your urban designer's recommendation, that buffers as you transition from commercial use to a lower density use.
And the property that we just referred to is to the west, which is the commercial / storage component.
Yes, sir. That's what this will be looking over.
Thank you.
Hopefully they won't be.
Thank you.
Never mind. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other comments? Let me open the public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Losner?
No.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
No.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 30 zoning, Article 3, District Regulations, Division 12, B2 Retail Commercial District, to provide that hardware stores of 2,000 square feet or more in size shall be permitted use in the B2 Retail Commercial District, amending Division 13, B3 Liberal Commercial Districts to clarify uses permitted, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it, Mayor.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilman Hodge. Question, Mr. Porter?
I didn't get a chance to be at the last meeting and was reading through the minutes. And if I remember, the minutes said that the staff was going to bring something back that would identify all the potential areas that are B2 or may be subject to, because 2,000 or larger, that's a pretty good swing. Has there been any identification as to how many areas we have?
Well, the way I understood it was not how many areas there are, but what we were asked to do was to provide a listing of what are the different uses, et cetera. And actually, when it started to come here, there was not a very well-developed staff report. What we have in here is the staff report prepared by Oliver Planning, going through the background in terms of what's been asked of us by other developers, et cetera, as well as the analysis, and then followed that at the request, I believe, of Vice Mayor Losner, was the actual attachment for the different zoning districts, so you can take a look and see what things would be applicable in B2, B3, et cetera.
How many areas are B2 that could potentially be exposed to 2,000 or greater lumber yards, for lack of a better term, because B2 is consistently lighter use. So the question is, I understand the concept, but still the question is, where are we making ourselves vulnerable in other areas that are currently B2 that would allow a 2,000 or larger? If it was 2,000 or smaller, it might be different, or 5,000 and smaller might be different. But are we exposing ourselves somewhere else, was my question.
Well, since everybody's not jumping out to give you an answer, I'll take a shot at it. There very well may be, to be honest with you, sir, unintended consequences that somebody may not have looked at. But if you look at the background, the first couple items indicate the developers of large retail stores, and it uses Lowe's and Home Depots as an example of approach the city to develop a big box, etc. It mentions that they normally be in a B3. The B3 is normally located in locations that are kind of off the beaten path, and the feeling is that the big box store is more of a retail than a lumber store, so to speak, even though the larger scale Home Depots and Lowe's would have a lumber department. Also requires, in this, the way this thing is written, that they have an 8-foot, I think it's an 8-foot, anyway, a concrete block wall around to shield it from the adjacent neighbors. There are a lot of discussions going behind me. I may be able to tell you the answer when we get done, but basically speaking, we looked at it from the standpoint of a number of developers coming in looking for large things and feeling that if it stays into B3, it's going to be far away from everything else and probably may not happen.
And it's not easier to address it from a land use standpoint than it is from a code change standpoint?
If you'd rephrase that question and repeat it, I'll see if James can answer that one for you.
No. Because the land use, the land use, B3 is the zoning district right now, which currently allows for the greater than 2,000 square feet hardware stores. That B3 land use goes with heavy commercial. Heavy commercial cannot be implemented by B2 zoning. It can only be implemented by B3 zoning. So light commercial is the next step down. That's implemented by your restricted B1A, B1, and B2. And those all are implemented through the light commercial land use. Is that what you're... So the quick fix is you couldn't just change the land use on the property because the zoning doesn't work with the land use.
Okay, so basically the industry is saying that in order for, this is more of a retail business than it is a heavy commercial business.
This would be equivalent to the big box hardware store, i.e. Lowe's, Home Depot type of establishment.
And there'll be sufficient protections if it goes into a B2 area on 15th and something else. Because the thing is, it doesn't just include a Lowe's or a Home Depot at 2,000 or greater. There's exposure is all I'm saying. I don't want to say that it's a clean deal, because I think there's areas other places in the city that are B2 that a lumber yard does not fit. That's the bottom line. So if this is what we need to do, this is what we need to do, but let's just be clear that there may be something elsewhere that gets us in a bind.
The other thing, Mr. Porter, is if you read the request itself, we've also indicated the requirement for the 8-foot high wall, etc., which will take care of some of the problems that they can be referring to.
I understand, just want to be clear.
Well, I understand. Like I said in the beginning, there may well be unintended consequences. You try to catch everything as you can, but there may be something that just doesn't fit. And right now, I guess we're asking you to look at what we think is a more positive versus negative on a small side.
Get everything you can to make it conducive for the area that it's going to be in. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Rick, I fear the unintended consequences. I understand the argument and the rationale for doing this. But again, as I think Councilman Porter shared, there's some current B2 sites that may not be the best place to put, and let's just pull a Lowe's out of the air as a hypothetical example. And maybe during the day it is more in the nature of retail, but we have tractor trailer trucks and contractors coming in early in the morning, and maybe there's supply deliveries coming in late at night. And while an 8-foot wall may keep you from seeing it if you're in close proximity in a neighborhood, it doesn't prevent you from hearing it. So having said that, I guess my question is do we have the old style of special exception maybe to fall back on where we look at each site as a specific case rather than a blanket B2? And just as an aside, what's the zoning that's underlying the BJ's, for example?
I think BJ's, if I remember, it got moved to light commercial.
That's a B2.
I believe so, so I wouldn't guarantee off the top of my head, but I think so.
Okay.
I go back and check, but right now I don't know for sure. I know we went through rezoning and everything for it.
But that, as an aside, can we go back and do it on, I guess, and I don't want to use the word spot zoning because that's not what I mean, but you know where I'm going at, site-specific, case-by-case basis.
You may need to ask that of the attorneys when they're done consulting, because again, one of the reasons we went this route was to try to avoid spot zoning or try to avoid the special exceptions, because then everything gets to be, well, you like him better than me, et cetera.
Well, and that is, generally the better practice to avoid that, but my fear is there may be some isolated B2 that may result in one of those unintended consequences.
As far as the question on the special exception, could you ask it again and make sure?
I think James is ready.
Okay.
Councilman Losmer, yes, you could, if it is the wish of the council to make this a special exception in a permitted use, but a special exception within the B2, that's certainly permissible. It could just be one of those added uses that would be a special exception versus a by right permitted use. And that way, anytime someone would come in and apply for this particular use in B2, it would subject them to the criteria as a special exception, and then that would be an added layer that you would go through and you would determine whether or not they meet those criteria listed in the code for a special exception.
And for example, on that case-by-case basis, we could build in protections that would be appropriate to one site that may not be appropriate to the other. And I would certainly be far more comfortable with that scenario than just that type of use as a matter of right in a B2.
Yes, that is correct. And then also, if I might add, that if you're concerned about it being so broad, 2,000 square feet or more, then you can certainly do a square footage cap as well. But I think that would be resolved if you had it by special exception, because then that would give you the added bonus or the added extra layer of review that would determine what would be appropriate for that specific site.
And I guess, for example, a special exception, you could potentially mandate the location of the loading dock, the aiming of lighting, even perhaps an hourly restriction on certain types of activities. So I guess I would ask our two attorneys, if it were the will of the council to amend this ordinance, how procedurally do we do that once we determine if that's where we'd like to go?
Okay, well, we would need to go back and redraft this ordinance. I think that would be within the scope of the title, so I think you probably could bring it back on second reading. But basically, it's going to take some time to do this properly. So my suggestion would be that you vote this one down.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Well, I think it's on for second reading. It's been advertised. Just vote against it, and we'll bring it back. And I also think, and I was speaking with Councilman Porter about this, is I think one of the concerns that I'm hearing is that we should at least be able to, the staff should be able to at least to try to identify potential sites around the city where this thing could be applicable. And it may not be precise, but it seems to me that you should be able to show areas where there's enough land, so this might be applicable, and that way you could look at it in relationship to other areas that you're concerned about. I think you should just vote this ordinance down, and we'll start from scratch. Yeah.
Okay. Just as I do appreciate the background that staff did provide, I think, to all of us to talk about what's permitted within which category. It was very, very helpful.
Could we refer it back to the committee, and Amanda, to bring back? Do we have to vote it down, just refer it back to committee?
Well, it's been passed on first reading, so I think you should take, there's really no, there's no foul by voting it down, and we need to start again, and we would want to re-advertise it and so forth. So I think you could vote it down with an instruction to the Councilman Gardner's committee to bring it back as a special exception.
Okay.
Mayor.
Mr. Hodge?
Thank you, Mayor. I have to be Mr. Equal Opportunity here, and you know, I always would, again, be in the minority maybe, but always would stand against for items when you call it special exception or being able to look at things on a case-by-case basis, because it leaves too much opportunity. Again, Rick pointed out, you know, you like this guy better than me, and I understand that, you know, our legal is very equipped in putting the resolution together so we're well protected. But personally, I just don't like it. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. And I understand what the object is, and I understand what the goal is here, and it is to protect the city from any unforeseen dangers. We'll put it in that category. But however, you know, if we either give, you know, we had this situation with the entertainment district with being able to serve alcohol. You know, we had a gentleman to come and wanted, you know, 3 o'clock, and it was better to give an area 3 o'clock than just to say this one particular guy gets 3 o'clock, and you have other applicants come and say, no, we can't give you the 3 o'clock. You know, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And, you know, it's just good common sense, fairness, the ability to give everyone an opportunity if that law is on the book. So I am totally against any kind of special exceptions, any kind of case-by-case situation, for the simple fact of it gives too much open abilities for elimination of things that we may not like just because we may not like, and I don't think that is a fair practice. So, you know, I might be the only one to vote yes when this thing goes through, but I just want to, you know, sit that out there, because it's just, you know, I don't think that's good common practice. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Any other comments? Mayor, is there a motion to?
I'm sorry, but I have to ask, because there's two options. You can create a special exception, or we could defer this long enough for us to find out the vulnerable areas in the city.
We're going back to the job.
Two options, right? Because at this particular point, nobody knows where there's another B2 that could be subject to this.
Well, if you're considering, if you would like to leave open consideration of this ordinance after you see where it might be applicable, then I would suggest that you defer second reading of this ordinance, or continue the public hearing on the second reading of this ordinance to a date certain, and if we have to continue it again, we'll continue again. That way you could have the option of passing it, and also, or have the option of passing the special exception section ordinance at the same time, if you want to leave them both open as an alternate.
Mike has a question, Mayor.
Mike?
Mr. Mayor, council members, like the city attorney mentioned earlier, something with type of Lowe's or Home Depot, we did look at potential locations for these stores like that, and they are really very, very limited, with the exception of a couple of sites we know of. However, the ordinance says anything above 2,000 square feet, and if we're going to look at that, I'm sure we will find several locations in the B2 zoning that could be more than 2,000 square feet. So I'm just trying to see if the instruction is to go back and look at anything above 2,000 square feet, and that's the number, I think. 2,000 square feet, and I assure there will be many.
Mr. Mayor, all I'm saying is, that if there's a huge delay on trying to rewrite it to make it a special exception, or if there's a way that we can as a council feel comfortable that there's not vulnerable B2 areas inside the city, where a 2,000 foot maximum 2,000 feet, up to 50,000 feet, you could have a 50,000 square foot lumber yard move into a B2 area if you pass this like it is.
That's correct.
And none of us know, as a council, where those B2 areas may be in the city. And I think that's where we're all trying to go. And you have two choices. We either try to do it through the special exception process, which may be the most appropriate way, or we as a council can sit here and say, we're comfortable that there's no vulnerable B2 areas where a 50,000 square foot lumber yard could move in. That's my concern. I think that's all of our concern. Right. But nobody knows where those areas are right now, tonight.
My personal recommendation is to really, I know Mr. Hodge may get mad at me, but it's really to go with the special exemption. Otherwise, it's really very hard to craft an ordinance that's going to fit every category.
It's fine. I just wanted to know what choices we have. Is there any particular timeline that we're running here? Are we going to kick somebody to the curb, or?
I would just say that we could move very quickly on coming back before you with an ordinance for a special exception proposed code amendment. However, or I should say rather, it would take quite some time for staff to do the zoning analysis and go through the zoning maps and locate all the applicable B2 properties that could potentially be subject to this. So that's the framework, and I don't know if that could be done by the next council meeting or perhaps even the council meeting after that.
I'm fine with the special exception opportunity. I'd love to look at it from that viewpoint. Just want to move this thing forward. Whatever this is, move it forward.
And James, I also think that if it's a special exception ordinance, it has to go back to the LPA, doesn't it?
We'll have to amend the title. It'll go back to the LPA, and then it'll come back before you for first and second reading.
It's got to go back to P&Z before it comes back to you. But we'll do what we can on our part to expedite the drafting of it. And just to address what you've raised, Councilman Hodge, because I do understand what you're saying, is that one of the aspects of a special exception would be there would be specific criteria in the ordinance that would say a special exception shall only be granted upon a finding that, so it's not open. It's one of the things that would be required would be that we would have criteria that you would look at that doesn't totally solve your problem, but it's not just we like this person or don't like this person. There would be specific criteria that will allow the granting of the special exception that I think when you see it, might at least soften your feeling about it. But I do understand what you're saying. But it will be in the end, it'll be somewhat subjective, but there will be criteria.
There's a motion and a second. Let's vote this down and then give instruction to
one more question.
Mr. Hodge.
Okay. Now, are there any applications that would be held up or waiting, or potential applicants that will be held up or waiting commercial-wise because of this? Or
staff's not officially,
we should even know about or consider. Should you even answer that?
Staff's not officially received any application at this point.
Okay. Thanks. Because again, my thing is boosting the commercial piece as much as possible. So, my focus is, I wouldn't want to be holding up any commercial potentials that we may or may not have. And, there may be some that's irritated about my questioning, but, what's fair is what's fair. And that's just the way it is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Porter?
The motion was to approve, so I have to say no.
Councilwoman Bell?
No.
Councilwoman Garner?
No.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
No.
Mayor Warren?
No.
Motion dies.
The next item is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the city code by repealing Article 1 in general of Chapter 11 Emergency Management and adopting new sections 11-1 through and including 11-12 of Article 1 in general of Chapter 11 Emergency Management to provide further necessary and appropriate emergency management authorizations, responsibilities, and procedures, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Moved by the Vice Mayor, is there a second? Second by Councilman Bell. Any question? We talked about this in the committee of the whole. This is a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments? Is this first reading on emergency management? No comments from the audience. I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item is first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the city's fiscal year budget beginning October 1st, 2005 and ending September 30th, 2006 by increasing both the revenue and expenditure budget by $1,165,000, providing for a repealer, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilman Hodge. Any questions from council? Another issue we discussed in the COW last week. Taking money for the command post, command center, and for the improvement renovations of the Pell Gym.
Out of forfeiture.
Out of forfeiture funds. Been properly moved in second. This is the first reading of this ordinance. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the audience? We're using drug monies to purchase a new command center and to improve our Pell Gym.
Now that the movie RV is out, we're buying drug money.
Drug money.
I thought they were donations.
These drug money. Going for very good use.
Very good, Mayor.
No comments from the audience. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The last legislative item on the agenda is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 30 zoning, Article 3 District Regulations, Division 6, RTH Townhouse District, by amending development requirements applicable to parking standards, further amending Division 7, RCH Cluster House District, by amending development requirements applicable to parking standards, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Councilwoman Garner, I know we referred this to you. Any comments on?
Yes, Mayor. Before council gets upset, I want to give some background and make some changes. This was brought forth a couple weeks ago, and I gave some directions to staff, and then I went out of town, and one of the reasons that I agreed we need to make changes was because our current code states you must have 2 garages for a townhouse unit or a cluster unit, and when looking at some of the projects, for example, some of the infill projects, if you look at the square footage and you require a 2-car garage, it would require the unit to build up to 3 stories to make it livable. So that didn't seem a little too stringent, so I discussed a little bit with staff, and part of my recommendation was to follow the PUD, which actually was only part of my recommendation. So council, if you look at the actual ordinance, Part A is not actually what I was meaning. I believe there should be 1 garage. I didn't say no garages. We went from too strict and now we're too lenient. And instead of deferring the item and putting it off further, I just want to make the changes now, discuss them with you. I believe that Part B is okay. We followed the PUD code there on how many parking spaces should be required, depending on how many bedrooms are in the unit. But for the actual garage area, that is not what I'd like to see. I'd like to make some changes before second reading. I believe it should be a garage required. Second garage, sure, go ahead, but not required to have the second garage. And storage unit should be required.
Mayor, question for Councilwoman Garner.
Ms. Bell?
Thank you. Thank you for that very much. So when we read either a storage area or a garage, that's what you're tightening up on.
That's too
That was
lenient.
my only concern.
That's too lenient.
And that
We went from requiring 2 garages to requiring a storage or a garage.
Okay.
And the developers all tell me that they can't sell anything that doesn't have a garage, so they shouldn't mind having a garage.
So if it's a small unit, it would have 1 garage.
Right.
Right. Thank you very much.
So we will make these changes and bring them back to you, but to make it a quicker process, I was just going to tell you...
Hold the first reading.
Right, make the changes and then discuss it next meeting.
I'll second that.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, because it seemed that the changes that came to us on Friday afternoon seemed to be far more comprehensive than were requested at the committee of the whole, I guess, a week or so ago. And this is a substantial part of an ordinance that took many, many months to develop and bring forward. I was really kind of uncomfortable doing this on such a spur of the moment without having it come before us at the committee of the whole, where we could really sit down and chew through it, given the history of how it got here. I was really uncomfortable with some of the things you pointed out and just the whole procedural process here, that we seem to be going from one extreme to the other, and I was reminded of the gutting of an ordinance that I worked very hard to do about 5 years ago, and then all of a sudden after we passed it, everybody came to the table and said, oh, we can't live with this, after there had been plenty of opportunity to come forward and deal with it. So I didn't want to have that situation. So is it anticipated that maybe we could have your changes at the committee of the whole next Tuesday?
We can try to do that and also provide you with some examples so you could actually visually see what we're talking about.
Thank you. Yeah, just if we could squeeze that, get these changes made and squeeze it in the Cal agenda for Tuesday night, next Tuesday. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Any other comments? Well, this is first reading. Any comments from the audience? I would have a motion in the second. Can I get a motion in the second?
I'll make the motion.
Moved
with
by
the
Councilman
changes.
Hodge and second by Councilwoman Bell. And the goal is to discuss it in detail at the COW and have second reading at the next council meeting. Any comments? Any comments from the audience? If you want to hold your comments, you can until Tuesday at the committee of the whole. We discuss it further. But the chair has some concerns, and we'll address those concerns next Tuesday and have it on the next council meeting, hopefully. No comments from the audience. I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments from council? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Hodge?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Losner?
Reluctantly, yes.
Councilman Porter?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Garner?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Any public comments at this time? We're on the public comments area.
Mr. Mayor, Steve Shiver, as the chairman of co-chair, CNI chair, the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life here at Homestead. This is Friday and Saturday, the 5th and 6th, will be our Relay for Life. And I want you to know that your team at the city of Homestead has done a wonderful job in raising money. We have a goal this year was of $50,000. The teams, some better than 25 teams, have already met our goal this year before the event even took place. So we're well over $70,000 in raised funds thus far. Myself and Sire do co-chair the event. Mrs. Waldman, Councilwoman Waldman, is the honorary chair of the event. And it should be a remarkable showing of public support for those that are affected, families and actual victims of cancer themselves. So we would ask that if you have an opportunity, please come out and join us. It should be a wonderful event. It's in the baseball stadium.
Thank you, Mr. Shiver. And I just want to put on the record that Councilwoman Waldman left early. A very close friend of hers passed away, Miss Debbie Nels. All righty, Mr. City Manager.
Just a few items, Mayor and Council. One, I'd like to announce that the city will be conducting a summer camp at the Homestead Sports Complex at the Minor League Clubhouse. It'll be a 10-week camp starting May 30th, and it'll run through August 4th. It's open to children from ages 6 to 13. There's a lot of information on here, so I'll jump down to where your contact information. Registration began today, and it'll continue Monday through Friday from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m., and you can register at the William F. Bill Dickinson Senior Center at 43 Northeast 16th Street. I'll give you two phone numbers, 305-224-4578 or 305-245-4934. Call for further information. You can always, if you didn't get to catch those numbers real quick, you can have a pen handy and call us at City Hall. We'll direct you to the right place.
What the cost?
The cost will be is a $10 registration fee, and which includes one camp T-shirt that comes with that. The cost for City of Homestead residents is $80 a week per child with a $5 discount for siblings. A discounted rate of $200 will be offered for the advance payment of a 3-week registration. The cost for non-city residents is $95 per week per child with a $5 discount for siblings. A discounted rate of $250 will be offered for the advance payment of 3-week registration. We also have a couple of functions going on this coming the weekend before the next council meeting. Arch South, the second Saturday, is on May 13th between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. For more information on that, you can call 305-247-9406. Also, there's an opening on the City of Homestead's Historic Preservation Board. The Homestead City Council is requesting that individuals that are interested contact us. You do serve without pay. I should mention that when you volunteer. New applicants must have resided in Homestead for at least 1 year as a criteria. Anyone interested in finding out more information should call 305-224-4487. Get in touch with our CRA department as well if you missed that number. We also will have a Cinco de Mayo celebration on Friday night in Homestead. Chrome Avenue between Maury and Railroad, the old railroad, I guess, will be closed off for a street party. The band will start playing at 9 p.m. The restaurants will be open all evening for dinner and celebration. The celebration will end at 1 p.m. I'd just like to say I'd like to commend the PD. I mean, we've had 2 immigration demonstrations there, and I also wanted to commend the demonstrators. Everything went very orderly, peacefully. I think their point was made. There was no behavior to focus on other than the issue that they were marching on, so I commend both the demonstrators but also the PD. And they've got a lot of compliments on how they handled and organized to handle the parade and the demonstration. So did a good job, Al, you and your guys.
A lot of public works guys out there doing that.
Yeah,
public works guys out there doing a lot of work.
Yeah, the public work had a lot of cones. That if you'd see the number of people that came by and marched today, we're standing out there. It took probably an hour for them to get through and come all the way through.
What kind of cost involved in those kind of activities, man? Any general idea between police costs and public works?
They paid some police services, but it didn't cover everything. $800 I think they paid, but we have to provide enough people, make sure everything works okay, if everybody's safe. So I guess part of doing the business. I would like to mention tonight is Sherry Kamali's birthday today. I wanted to say that because one of the benefits she didn't know she was going to get from the city was to be able to work 14 hours on her birthday. We failed to mention that, but
welcome.
That comes. And we also have Richard's birthday, the wounded warrior here.
Oh, today?
It's his birthday today. They share their birthday, so I wanted to mention that before the night's over. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to commend the manager. I saw the flyer by email last week on the city's summer camp program, and it was impressive. It really was. I know my wife was
Parks and Rec
was really interested in that. Wanted to commend everyone out in the agricultural community who took part in putting on the Farm Bureau Barbecue this past weekend. I'm sure they served in excess of 1,000 people and did it very well, and again put a spotlight on how, even in an evolving economy, how important agriculture is to the economy of Homestead and Deep South Dade. Also, too, I wanted to mention and encourage people to go out and take part in Relay for Life. I don't Mr. Shriver mentioned how many teams there were, and I know they're all working hard. My wife happens to be a captain of one of the teams, and I know how many hours that there's been meetings at my house till the wee hours of the morning, and just the effort by literally hundreds of people that are being put into this event merits attendance by the entire community. It'll be well worth the effort. It occurred to me while we were up here tonight, do we have a commission hearing date yet on annexation? Is that moratorium? I'm certain that's expired by now? Or?
Well, we don't. I have Mitch Bierman checking with the county to see that it's supposed to be soon that's going to happen, and Mitch is going to get back with me on that date.
Very good. Just something popped into my head up here.
Yeah.
And, okay, a couple other items. May 1st, what an interesting day. We've got 2 birthdays here, and I wanted to recognize that today is my parents' 47th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And let's see. Oh, my mother's birthday is also this week, too, so she had the 3rd. She got married and had a birthday. But beyond that, Mr. Wood, wish Happy Mother's Day. We have another meeting before that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Councilman Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I wanted to go back to the 328 street project with Julio or Mike, whoever wants to. I know that we've been patiently waiting and working with the county to get some sort of an understanding, mutual understanding of the interlocal agreement, and I would like for us to have a full court press, for lack of a better term, with the county officials that are responsible or can be responsible for making that decision, and would ask that the council, maybe you need to bring forward at the committee to hold some brief discussion about the interlocal agreement so we can all understand where we're going with this and what the responsibilities would be to the city, the benefits and the downsides, so that if there is something politically that we can do it. But we need to know that it's been long enough, and I know you've made strides, but we need bigger strides, and I think all the council is willing to do whatever is possible to make those connections connect quicker. So maybe, Julio, in the next meeting, just briefly, just a real quick brush over of the interlocal, what it's going to do for us, how the benefits, and so forth. So I'd appreciate that so that we can all be on the same page. Also, Mr. Manager, I didn't realize, I'm looking at the special call for Wednesday, and I noticed the land, the potential sale of the land is in a special call form, and I was hoping that it would be in a discussion type of process. And one of the things that concerns me right now is, as I've talked to the chief and the police department about, where do we need to be 20 years from now, and do we have enough surplus property? Have we decided what a footprint's going to be? And going to the table with everything that we have potentially to be sold, without possibly having some directors come to the table and say, hey, I think I'm going to need a little piece of this, a little piece of that. I'd rather make sure that if we made a decision to RFP the whole, if we're going to RFP it, which I think is your position, it'd be nice if we knew that we didn't put people through the exercise of RFPing something, our staff and the people that will respond to an RFP, and then at the 11th hour us find out that we might need a larger footprint here, there, or someplace else. And I don't disagree that we need to take this forward because I know the pressure that you're under from everyone. But I think at the same time I'd like to see us not necessarily make a mistake and sell something today that we end up having to turn around tomorrow and try to find it back, because it will be harder to get back once it's gone. So I don't know what the protocol is. I would just think that it would be nice if we could have some sort of conversation or make sure that all of the directors are comfortable with what they have, not just today and not just next week, but maybe 20 years from now. The city's going from 50 to 70,000. It's kind of a shot in the dark, but that's just a concern I have, and you have to ask individually the council how they feel. But in a special call, I know the actions are final, and it could be gone like that. And that's the only concern I have, because it's not in a workshop or it's not in a committee of the whole.
Okay, this is, first, it's going to be a bid is what is recommended. The concept was, do we want to move forward and bid these, is what I needed to know. Then we'll bring the bid documents and put the bid documents out, and what bids come back you're going to have to approve. However you want, I'm open to any way. We're just trying to move it forward, that's all.
No, and listen, I mean no disrespect by what I'm saying. I just want to make sure that if we sell everything that we have by RFP, there's a really nice number out there, it looks good, and then 8 months from now we find out we need another substation, we need another police substation, we need more area to park lawnmowers for the Parks and Recreation Division, whatever the case may be. Is there something that we might want to just look at first? So, going into the special call, that's just the only thing that concerns me, is it could be over very quickly. And once you do the RFP, we've had RFPs out, very, very difficult when it comes back to say, no, we just put you through $100,000 worth of effort, or staff just spent 6 months trying to put together an RFP, and then we just change it at the end of the day. That's all I'm asking. I just ask for the council to think about that as we go into this special call, and if it so chooses that we want to maybe do something different, it's already on the special call. I think we need to talk about it, obviously, but I just would like that we be cautious on that.
Just let me know, whatever you want to do. It's fine.
So anyway, that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, Steve Shiver, in light of that comment, just for a second, if I may.
Go ahead.
Today we submitted, I believe it was, through many painstaking hours of discussion, as you've asked Mr. Losner to discuss the 93 agreement and the disposition of the Park of Commerce in particular. There are other things that we have gone through several months, in fact over a year, in discussing how that procedure would take place. While we are not final in those discussions, I would say that we are closer today than we were several months ago. Today we submitted a draft document, not a draft, I'm sorry, a letter from Michael Lettner outlining the details of what our belief was the concepts of a settlement or a partial settlement. And Mr. Porter is correct in my opinion, in selling everything to RFP at once. You have had people stand here, let me say to you, the reason the Park of Commerce, one of the reasons it's not sold today is because 2+ years ago there was a gentleman standing here at this podium and offered $1 gazillion for something that he didn't know what it was. Now, I'm not going to mention who that person is, but that's misleading to the public. It's misleading to the people that you run into in the grocery stores every day. It's misleading sometimes because of the way the media reports those things. And I think there are good business decisions that those that have vested interest in and around areas of concern that you have worked out detailed plans and have begun work with homeowners and begun work with how to move through that process in a very collective environment, and to in the 11th hour bring somebody in that changes the entire premise of what we've been talking about for 2 years may be very difficult for you and may be very difficult for this community. While special action on the 15th, I don't mind. If there's the will of this council to enter into negotiations, I don't, that's up to you. But I would ask that you give this opportunity to play out with Mr. Losner as you have prescribed or have asked him to be part of the negotiation team in working with us to settle the agreement. Thank you.
Mayor, let me be clear though about what, with no disrespect to what Mr. Shiver's saying, my issue is making sure that we have enough for us as a community before we move past the date of no return. Special calls get you there very fast. And I would just ask that we be aware that's where we are with the ability to put something out for RFP. It's a lot harder to, we all remember the RFP, FP&L for the electric utility, what that drug us through. It was a question, and there was a response to the question, but it was very, very difficult to sit up here and go through that rhetoric. And all I'm asking is make sure that if we do something, when we do something, we have our nest egg and our needs met before we pull that trigger and let it all go, or potentially let it all go. And the manager does need relief, and there are parcels and pieces that do need to go. They're better productive in the private sector side, and there's better pieces that we might not want to do anything with right now. Let's just work for making sure to protect the directors and their needs in the future.
And I think, Mr. Porter, that's the whole purpose of the special call is for us collectively to give the manager some direction on those very same issues you're talking about, what we would think we should put out for bid and what we think we should hold on to.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Whether we should carve out some acreage for future city uses. So those are issues I think we would talk about on Wednesday.
The only thing, too, Mayor,
direction.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The only thing I was going to say is, in the special call, I don't know if we were going to have any rhetoric or dialogue with the directors individually over their intentions or their thoughts and needs. And that was kind of where I wanted to make sure that we got some dialogue there. And that can be done in the special call. I certainly can. I appreciate everyone's indulgence. Thank you, Mayor. I'm through.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Councilwoman Bell?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to point out to the community that this Saturday, the Homestead Women's Club is having its Mother's Day breakfast from 9 to 11. You can go right to the Homestead Women's Club, or you can see me or actually Steve's wife for tickets, and we'd be happy to accommodate you. Went to Chamber of Commerce luncheon last Thursday as our school board member Evelyn Greer was the guest speaker. Also, the ABWA luncheon was very, very nice, very well done, and I wanted to commend the organization for a great luncheon. I have been entertaining a group from South Africa for almost 2 weeks now, so it's been quite strenuous. It's been wonderful. We took them on a South Day tour that we kind of all picked a day, and I picked one of the days, and we took them over to Fuchs. I took them to the Angels Hatchery, took them to Robert's Hill Fruit Stand. We drove all around Homestead, and they got to see a protest today. They got to see American democracy at its best and see a protest. So it was good. We drove right by the protest. So and it was, by the way, it was very, very well done, very well organized, and we were terribly impressed. So Chief Roll, that reflects very well upon the Homestead Police Department. Also, I was the judge in an oratory contest at Homestead Middle School, and the contest was for elementary school children, and it was very, very nice. I was very pleased to be a judge. And also, a couple weeks ago, I did Career Day over at Campbell Drive Middle School. So it's still been quite busy, even with the South African guest here. And I've drug one of my guests around and gave her a tour of City Hall as well, and she was quite interested in how our government works here in city business, and she's been reading newspaper articles and just many different things that I had. And the South Africans are very, very interested in America, and quite a few of them, this was their very first time to America, so it's been very, very interesting to them. And one of the comments I keep hearing constantly is, you Americans are just terribly clever, and that they have a very distinctly British accent, and they keep commenting on how clever we Americans are. So just let you know that you guys are clever. Thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bell. Councilwoman Garner.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item. Our Marketing PR Committee has been meeting every other Thursday, and I'm pleased to announce that we are going to launch a new city newsletter. It's one of our ways that we're trying to increase communication with the residents, and it will be mailed out to every single resident in the city. It's going to be a full-size tabloid color with a lot of different information on what's going on in the city, what's going on in our departments, some improvements that are going on in the city with pictures so that you know exactly where those improvements are being made at. Lillian has been working on it. She's our public information officer. She's looking at the final draft, I believe, tomorrow. So they will be printed and they will be mailed out hopefully next week. So look for those. We're going to start doing those quarterly. If it goes well, maybe more, but right now we're going to continue it quarterly. It will be available on the city's website in a PDF version and at City Hall and at all of our functions. So keep an eye out for it.
That's it. Thank you. Councilman Hodge?
No, thank you, Mayor. Consistent as always.
I was fortunate to be in Memphis, Tennessee last week and attending the National Conference of Black Mayors, and one of the major concerns is public education all over the country. And one thing we decided to do, and especially when you're talking about the desperate decline of black males graduated from high school and going to college. And in some areas in our country, like Cincinnati, Ohio, and Las Vegas, you got about 15, 17, 18% of these young men graduating from high school. They're not graduating. They're dropping out at rapid rates, and it's a terrible concern throughout the country. 18% graduation rate just tells you something what's going on. I don't know specifically what it is in Florida. I think it's probably 30, 40% graduation rate. So that was a major challenge, and we're coming up with some strategies to encourage cities throughout the country to implement, to try and encourage young black males to stay in school and graduate. But that was a major issue, and certainly crime was another major concern. Chief, we're doing a very good job, but when you look at it nationally, there's some serious problems throughout the country, especially with crack cocaine and others. So there will be some strategies that at some point I will share with the council as to what other cities are doing. And some are doing some very innovative things to address those issues. I was fortunate to be there. Just wanted to send out, on behalf of the mayor and council, our condolences to Eddie Pearson and his family. I'm sure you read this morning's paper that Eddie Pearson, who was a principal at Homestead Senior High School, he had a tenure at South Dade. He'd been all over the place. Very instrumental in public education in South Dade, and he passed away, I think it was on Friday morning. And I was not here in Memphis, but I appreciate the council's response to Mayor John Cosgrove. We also lost not only a friend, but when he was a senator, was really very supportive of the city Homestead for many years, and it's just unfortunate that things happen, and just want to express my condolences to his wife and his kids, and thank all of the council members for going to the wake last week. And one other, I think, pioneer in the community passed away last week, Mr. Fred Robinson. Long Homestead resident. I think he was a Florida City resident when he passed away last Monday. And I think his funeral is on the Saturday. So just so much is going on, and we're losing some pioneers and people that have made indelible contributions to our community. We just want to express our sympathy and our condolences to the families. And that's all I have. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mayor.